you should be able to see a good number of students, and we all have very bright backgrounds. There's actually a theme here. We're not just crazy. So those who are in blue are the staff members who are going to be the hosts of this event. Those with a yellow background are the people from the podcast team, so the podcast editorial board. Those in green, that's Maria representing the SSLC, so the student committee and reps. Blue, we have Rosie and Joyce, Joyce Ataligbe, who are coming from Eco Society. Please forgive my terrible memory.
I would say
Sorry?
there are purple instead of blue.
Oh, so yes, purple. Oh, I don't even know colors anymore. Well, got my life. Anyways, yeah, purple are the guys from Eco Society, and white is from NEP, so the Norwich Economic Papers. That's probably going to be hard to remember, so I'll probably put a color coding in the chat so that everyone can get through, so you figure out who is who and what we represent. But so the hosts today are going to be myself, Ruth, and George, also in blue, and Baha, also in blue. And I'm sure you can see the names of everyone on the screen. So on the podcast team, we have Yeva, Chris, and James, all in yellow. And we have Rosie and Joyce in purple, who are from Eco Society, Maria in green from the SSLC, William from the NEP. So we'll just go straight into it, and we'll start with Baha.
Hello and good evening, Friday, week 8. So I want to first propose a question to everyone in the chat. So feel free to write what you think on this question in the chat. The question is, what does engagement mean to you all? And this is a question in academic sense or in a student life sense. This is open to everyone. So please write your opinions in the chat. And I also want to ask one of our color background students to answer this question. What do you think engagement means to you?
I think engagement for me is about committing and actively participating as a student. It's kind of beyond going like the basic and compulsory stuff such as lectures and workshops, and trying to get a bit more integrated within the student and academic community. So it's just like an active stuff. You don't do it every day, but you're kind of in the background and helping where you can, or being helped as well sometimes when there's a chance for it.
Yeah. Anyone else with how about you, Joyce? Because I know that Joyce is an alumni. So Joyce has disappeared from the screen, or is it just my screen?
Engagement for me is just, in academics, I would say just interacting with the lecturers, interacting with your peers, advisors, and just making the most out of all the resources that we have, like advice meetings. I mean, it's been difficult with COVID, but before I would just make meetings with lecturers, meet with my friends to discuss what we're learning about.
It's just getting involved really in any aspect of it, and even engaging in university lifestyle, things like that.
Engaging like with socials, going out, just anything to get involved and not feel alone.
And finally, James, how would you describe engagement, both from an academic and extracurricular perspective?
I think obviously I think there's two ways of looking at it, in that engaging academically, so like learning as much as possible, asking questions of what the lecturers are learning, so like you're kind of getting a better understanding, and then also probably stuff that we're kind of doing, which is kind of extracurricular stuff. So whether that be working with the podcast or the papers or anything, I think it's kind of like learning as much as you can and getting as much out of your university experience as possible, and then also trying to get as many skills as possible that you can then use in later life, and also trying to do something that's interesting. And I think if you're studying economics, then everything that's here today and people representing today, you should probably be interested in. And so I think just getting the most out of your university experience and learning as much as possible as you can over the 3 years is probably what engagement is about, I'd say.
Sounds good. I think George has a question.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. First of all, thank you all for joining today. It's a pleasure to see students representing different parts of the eco community. And of course, yeah, just to add also engagement, I would say it has two sides. One is the academic engagement, which is about not just about attending lectures and your academic events, but also actively being an active participant in these. And also the extracurricular areas, employability related, or any other ways we can create a more kind of a sense of community as a School of Economics, this is what we're trying to do. So all of you are engaged in some way with the school, apart from the academic engagement. So I would like to ask, how are you currently engaging with the school? What kind of opportunities have you used so far? What does this involve, and how do you use these opportunities? How do they help you in what ways do these opportunities help you? For example, getting additional skills or getting a better sense of community with other students or with members of staff and so on. Anyone willing to?
Sure, I can have a go at this one. So for those that don't know, I'm one of 3 editors of the Norwich Economic Papers journal, and so this really sort of involves, we produce sort of 2 issues of the journal. This year we're sort of soon gonna produce our first issue. So it's really sort of the skills I guess I've learned, or I've sort of practiced sort of the whole sort of publication skills. So that can be sort of designing the issue and making sort of decisions on the content and stuff. And then I guess on the sort of editorial side, editing content and sort of writing your own content. So it's sort of a rounded experience for anyone that's sort of really interested in publishing and journalism. And I think it's sort of, in addition, yeah, also just sort of interviewing people as well. I think that's just quite a key skill to highlight to a potential employer if you want to go into journalism. I think the paper just, it enables you to sort of touch on all the sort of different parts, and I think you can just speak about it really well in your sort of interviews and stuff. So I think, yeah, particularly with me, this is something that I've been interested in, and it's sort of enabled me to, it's just added another thing of sort of interest to my CV, which is important for us as we're sort of trying to enter into the working world.
Thank you, William. Anybody from the Norwich Economic podcast? So how do you find the experience, and what are you learning from it?
Yeah, I can go. So I did my undergrad in the School of PPL in International Relations. So having worked for a year and then come back to UEA, obviously I didn't really know anything to do about eco before. So it was really good opportunity taking part in the podcast to just get to know both the academics and my peers as well in a better sense. And yeah, it's opened up a lot of opportunities. At the moment, I'm taking on an internship alongside the podcast, and the podcast was something that in my interview they were really impressed by, and I think, yeah, it's a great opportunity that I think I wouldn't have taken on otherwise, and showing that I've been proactive despite COVID is something that really impresses employers in the interviews that I've done, and that you're still proactive and excited to engage not only with your studies but also with the school and helping out the uni however way you can. So yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone to take part in the podcast.
Thank you, Chris. Maria, I would like also to ask you about representing, being part of the SSLC and a student rep. How does engaging in that way has helped you being part of the eco community?
Personally, it has helped me a lot. As an international student, I didn't understand much the educational system in the UK, as it's quite different from like elsewhere. So through the SSLC, I started to integrate more into the academic sphere and also how teaching works, how to address people in an academic and kind of formal way. Like in America, you'll call them Ms. and then the person's last name, but here you adhere people by the name. So it's just tiny little things that that helped me in the first year that I joined the SSLC. And then during that first year, I actually found out about all the other things that come from being within the committee, such as all the soft skills that you learn and understanding better the school itself. You not only understand the student point of view, but also the staff point of view and the struggles that arise. So it not only helped me to expand my network, but also to understand better, like as a person, what lecturers are going through and how things work in the school. And it also gives you this feeling that you're an agent for change. If there's something that is being a problem for students, you can rise that problem, and it's a space in which you feel accepted and heard. It's like you feel the student's opinion actually matters. So yeah, I think for me, it's been very good, like academically as a person, as a student, and in the professional way as well, because it's a chance to connect better with lecturers and people within the school as well. So you expand your network.
Maria, apart from participating in SSL meetings, what else does this being a student rep involves? Or maybe Eva can also add something because she has also been a student rep.
Yes, I think I should split my background in like two parts, with the green for the course rep part and yellow for the podcast. But both of those like offer very two different opportunities, but both are very great. But for course rep part, you're sort of like the bridge between students and staff, which is a very, very nice thing in both in terms of like feeling like you are part of a community, and as Maria said, that you can make a change. So it's just like being present and around and speaking to people and hearing what are their issues. And when you do that, and then because students a lot talk about the issues that are going on in the school like themselves, and it is very important that there are like some that actually bring it towards the staff, and that because ECO has like a lot of people that are willing to engage, both here on the podcast side, both on the SSLC side. And through SSLC, I also started to work with EPIC, which is Educational Practice Innovation Committee, with Duncan Watson. And it's also a bunch of students who are also willing to make change and like propose ideas how things could work. And yes, apart from like the community feeling, it's just like the feeling that you can actually do something and see how things like affect other people is very cool.
Great, Eva, many thanks. And I would like to ask the society, of course, as well. Why do you think students should engage with the society? How does the society engage with the school as well? But also, what kind of extracurricular activities you have so that students would benefit from it? Either Rosie or Joyce, everyone.
I think for us, we're part of the committee, so we've gained a lot from it, from the organisational side to that sort of delegation role. As I don't know if people know, but I'm the president and you're the vice president. And then also it allowed, I was a student rep, I've been throughout my entire time at uni, but then through being on the society, you then started going to the SLC, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you got really engaged in that way.
Yeah. I mean, the society, being on the committee itself is good for us, but it's nice to give back to the students. We would host so many socials, and I think it was through socials in first year that really got me engaged with the school. I made so many new friends, and joining uni on its own is hard, so having the society there to get people together was the best thing that I could have done at the start.
And I think as well, sometimes students are more likely to come to us in a more relaxed social environment, because I don't know why, but there's this stigma around it's scary of going to these official people with their official roles and stuff. So I think just through conversations with friends and stuff, you develop a lot more of a conversation surrounding what needs to change and that's what we've seen. And also my involvement with the eco support committee, I've seen a lot more, and it's been really insightful just to see that, like Maria said, see the range of problems that like the lecturers face and things like that. So it's really quite interesting to see the broad thing of it, rather than just a lecturer standing at the front of a lecture hall 2 hours a week. You know, there's so much more to it that I don't think that students really realise until they sort of probably got to our stage. So yeah.
Thank you a lot, Rosie and Joyce. Yes, Maria?
Yeah, I'd like to add something now that Rosie mentioned. I think another good thing, that I gained from the SSLT is that it also gave me a chance to get integrated within the Equality and Diversity in Economics group. And I think that's also a very relevant committee, particularly in an academic setting in which we know that there is sometimes very few opportunities for people from certain communities. So being able to join the EDE has also been good, not only in the sense of community and feeling like you're supported, but as Rosie said, like just erase these issues and like see people from the like human point of view rather than only the academic. So it's also a very good space, and yeah, it's good to be able to have all of these places and engage with them and talk with like from a person to person point of view and not an academic student point of view.
And I think also members of the Economic Society also participate in different meetings, the engagement, for example, the engagement meeting. And also, Rosie, I think you are part of the advisory board for the School of Economics, which are also very good opportunities to engage with externals as well and network.
Yeah, I've got my fingers in quite a lot of pies at the moment. But yeah, I think also something for the society is involvement in the social side of things. And it's not, as much as we are here to get a degree, the experience of uni is unlike anything else. We'll never really get the opportunity to just move away and have complete freedom for 3 years and be quite irresponsible, really. So I do think that that is another aspect which draws people in. And then through that, they can get into the different avenues. Like Maria said, she got into the Equality and Diversity group through one element of engagement, like Joyce, through being on the committee. You then went to the SSLC. So it's really a domino effect, I think, once you get involved.
Thank you, Rosie. And before continuing to the next question, so all of you, since you are engaged with one of the groups or in some way with one of the activities offered, but do you think that all these activities are visible enough to students? Do you think there are other ways we can make them more visible?
Perhaps, I don't know. When I sort of first joined, so I'm doing my masters, so I just joined in September. The NEP papers was, to be fair, the only one that I recognised, and that could be just a reflection of me not paying attention to my emails. But yeah, perhaps there is more that sort of could be done. I mean, I probably didn't think hard enough about there would be an economic society or whatever. I'm also now aware of the student-run investment fund, which I wasn't at the start. So I think there maybe could be some more, I guess, yeah, more awareness sort of put out there earlier on in the term, so you can have the chance to join early, and sort of. I guess rather than sort of waiting till sort of the new year or whatever to find these opportunities, but that could be a reflection of obviously everything's online these days. I assume that in most normal years you have some sort of freshers fair or something where, you know, there's a lot more sort of buzz and activity around different things that students can do. So
True.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. I think George has even asked my question about other opportunities in which you can engage? Because I think we all, at least in my opinion, we sort of brought everyone here together because of the role you have with these different bodies. But a lot of things are coming up, like the mentoring and all of those. So I'm just curious, for those of you who have your hands in many pots, like Rosie said, what other opportunities do you think students who do not want to, for example, be part of the NEP or the Eco Society or the podcast, what other opportunities do you think they can lay back on, or what other opportunities for engagement do you think they can actually take advantage of? And another question, if you had the opportunity to do this again, so if you had the opportunity to come to UEA again, would you do things differently? Would you still be part of these groups, or would you spend your time in a different way? I want to hear from Chris first.
I'm quite happy with the way that I've done this year. So I'm currently in my master's, and as I mentioned, I've got an internship. I do the podcast, and I've been volunteering with the charity. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do all three if there wasn't this opportunity for remote learning. And I know a lot of people kind of give it a lot of slack, but I think as much as it doesn't replace the real thing, it does offer other opportunities. So for example, my internships with a Brussels-based public affairs consultancy, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if it hadn't have been for COVID in a really dystopian way. But I think it's about sort of making the most of what opportunities you have to yourself to begin with. And I could have sort of deferred my master's a year, so I would have got the real UEA experience, although you know, I had that in my undergraduate year. But I thought, you know, there are opportunities despite COVID that are available, and I think it's what you make of it. So yeah, no, I'm quite happy with what I've been doing, and the podcast is a great way for me to engage with the School of Eco, having not really understood it since, well, I've only been involved since September. So yeah, no, I think I don't think I would have changed anything. And for me, from my personal experience, the podcast is a great way to really test your skills, not only in terms of organizing events, but also in terms of technical skills. I've really built my editing skills, which is something that I had some experience in before, but now I've got proof on my CV, which is what a lot of employers, you can say that you're interested in something, but if you don't have the proof, they're not necessarily going to believe you, or you're not necessarily as, you know, driven as someone else maybe. So yeah, I'm really happy with the decisions that I've made this semester, well, this year even. So yeah, could you repeat the first question? Sorry, I might have gone on a bit of a tangent.
Oh, I think you've answered the first question as well. So the first question was about other opportunities that students could explore in terms of engagement, other than belonging to one of these groups or any of the groups that we have here today. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd just say try and get involved with as many societies, even though they're not the same as they have been for the past, well, in my 3 years before COVID, but I still think it offers you great networking opportunities, not only in terms of with your fellow students, but also in terms of those opportunities outside of the society. And I know a lot of societies are speaking to other university societies as well, and engaging with them in that sort of way. So yeah, it's a great way to make loads of friends, but also networks for the future as well, which I think's equally as important.
What about you, James? What do you think to both questions? What other channels can you engage through, and would you do this again?
I think on the other channels, I think it's good. I think there are a lot of channels, and going back on the question about whether or not they kind of get advertised enough, I think it does. I think there are. I think the only thing I would say about that quickly is that maybe incorporating advertising in lectures could be done more. And that's probably more difficult this year with it being online. But I think having the number one way you're going to get to students is through lectures. So I think that is probably better than emails, because I know a lot of students, including myself, don't probably check emails that incredibly well. But there are lots of opportunities. I think maybe doing some. you don't want to do too much, especially like if like for the podcast for me, I think that's because it takes up a good amount of time and I want to put a lot of my energy into that as well as my course. I don't want to be kind of maybe doing so many other things because it might mean that I'm not fully engaging with the kind of thing that I really want to do, which is the podcast. So I think it's good to do I think the thing that I would always say is like do as much as you can, but that can means don't do everything, so that you're just kind of not kind of you're just spending your whole week doing this and that and turning up to so many meetings that you don't have a life. So there's a balance there, definitely. And then if I was say I would definitely do it again. I have really loved doing the podcast. It's probably kept me sane. One of the things that kept me sane through the lockdown. So I would definitely do it again. And I really enjoyed it. So I would always say to do things like this, I think it's really good. Like as Chris has said and other people have said, it's like learning the skills is brilliant. Meeting new people and friends is great. And kind of getting access to like kind of really interesting people and talking about kind of interesting subjects. I think all of those kind of things means I think you should do all the things we're talking about today. I think people should definitely go for, and I would definitely do the podcast again.
What about you, Rosie? So from the Eco Society, especially with the pandemic kind of changing all what you guys would typically do in a normal year, would you have decided that this would be the best time to join the society or to be the president or social secretary?
I'm as unfortunate as it is for us with the pandemic, we would have wished to do so much more with the society, but engagement in it is very low, as it is for many extracurricular things at the moment. But for me, it was sort of as soon as Lauren, who was the president at the time, came into our first year lecture right at the beginning, and she was speaking about her role and stuff, I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I knew from first year that I was going to go for president in third year. So, and then there's a question in the chat about has your role helped you find hidden passions and talents? And for me, we were social sex last year together. And as silly as it sounds, but it just let me be my organized self, but actually doing stuff. So like when we were planning the ball, that's my dream. I love planning parties and things like that. And it was just like, nice that there's roles within economics, which is what I want to do, that involve those sort of other things like party planning and dressing up and all things like that. And as novel as it sounds, I think that is something you can really take away from it. Engagement isn't all sitting there with a bunch of lecturers all the time and talking about really serious stuff. There are fun elements to it. So say getting involved with the pizza night that we usually do with the lecturers and that sort of opportunity, I think it humanizes everyone a bit more, because there is this image that lecturers are really scary and almost robotic. So yeah, I think that is what I've taken away from it, and I wouldn't change the roles we've had or anything. But as Chris said before, COVID has really provided those extra opportunities for us and allowed for involvement. Also, we've got so much more time on our hands because we're not doing anything else. So we are able to be more involved academically. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in the start, I wasn't as interested in getting involved. I would say that I was quite quiet and shy. But I met Rosie through one of the first events that the society had at the time. I think it was just like a meet and greet.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that so much. I made so many new friends on this one day.
We met Bahar that day as well.
Yeah, we met Bahar that day. And it was just a really nice way to get involved. And then through seeing my friends get involved, I thought, you know what, I'm going to get involved. So I became social secretary in my second year, and then went on to vice president this year. And I just wouldn't change a thing. It was one of the best decisions I've made. Rosie helped me made it too. So like, definitely, I wouldn't change anything. And despite COVID getting in the way, I think as a society we've done the best we can, and we have had a fair amount of engagement, which is more than we initially expected. So I wouldn't change anything. It's been really
but I
great
think
experience.
also, as a testament to what the others were saying, I don't think it's ever too late to get involved. Say Chris and William, they got involved in their masters.
Yeah.
So there is opportunities for every sort of type of person to get involved at whichever stage you're at. So,
Well, thank you very much for remembering me. I think it was just yesterday that I saw your face in my maths first year class, and when you see how many questions, like all the people, they've all phased out, like, are we doing that in a week or are we doing that in a whole term? And I can say that it is still the same, so nothing has changed. My next question, our next question is something that you've all touched on, is being a student during a lockdown, having everything virtually, not having the pizza evenings where it makes us human. Apparently, we all need to be mixed with pizza to make us more human. Come out of economics and numbers and maths and theories and all that, and I mean, we used to have all these social events, and I have to say that we were also, enjoying engaging with the students on other fronts. But then, do you feel that being a student in through a virtual environment, has that more you felt you more associated with the school, or are you feeling more disassociated with the school? Maybe I asked that from Rosie, or other people who've experienced being a student out of a lockdown and during a lockdown.
I think for us, the way it's impacted us the most is the lack of collaboration with other students when we have assignments. Because I remember last year when we had econometrics, there was a group of about 20 of us sat on the first floor of the library, and we'd all do it together and we'd all talk through our ideas, and it really helps for us both to talk something through before we can like write it down and get our heads around it. So I do feel in that way it must be very hard for first years to not have that sort of communal sharing of answers and just discussions.
But I mean, while it is difficult, it is definitely what you make it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if you choose to be a bit more reclusive, you're gonna get less out of the year than if you really just try and push and do everything you can. I found that I have definitely engaged more with my lecturers in this year than I even did beforehand. I'm sure that some of my lecturers are sick of having Teams meetings with me because I'm having them all the time, because why not? I mean, the opportunity's there, so you've got to make the most of it. But
I do think that is us from our experience of now being in third year, as opposed to pre and post pandemic. But
what about you, Maria? Have you had the same experience? Because I know that Maria has always been involved in like the Ziggurat challenge and things that are usually very social. How has this felt for you in this virtual experience?
For me, not having the Ziggurat challenge was heartbreaking, because I'm very active and I absolutely love like that 2 hours slot a week in which I could just let all the energy out and like see Pete getting super competitive and like doing silly stuff to win each week. So that's something that I definitely miss. And yeah, as you said, I'm very like social and active. So it has had its pros and cons. It's been good, as the girl said, because it gave me a chance to engage more academically. So now I'm training like 8 sessions per week, something I could have never dreamed of before lockdown. But it's because I can just like have an hour between lectures and stuff like that, which is super useful. But on like the human side, I do feel like I haven't connected as much with other students, because personally, I spend already so many hours sitting in front of my computer doing work or doing lectures that I just don't want to spend another hour just chatting with people most of the time, because I really have had enough of screen time. I just want to disconnect. And I also live with my family full time while I'm in Norwich. So it's also like hard to find that balance between my personal stuff, university, and family when you're doing everything in the same living room with the rest of your family. So I think that's been particularly difficult. But there's also spaces to do it in like, I haven't talked to much people, but then again, this econometrics project came, and that's when all eco students get together, because nothing unifies us as much as the fear of data. And that really helped you like to talk again to students. No offense to George, it's definitely not your fault. And yeah, I think it's been tough. It's been very difficult for me particularly, but there is spaces, and I think people you've been close to during your course are always going to be there. Like, it's kind of life-lasting relationships. So even if you haven't seen them, because some of my friends didn't even come back to the UK, you kind of still connect through everything. So yeah, a bit of both, because I also had you in first year, but yeah, Pete has done the most damage. But yeah, it's been difficult, but there is ways, I guess. I certainly miss the social part a lot, because I really like to be with other people.
Yeah, I can imagine. I wonder what the experience is like for Will, though, because Will, this is your first time at UEA, and you've sort of come to UEA during the pandemic. How has it been like for you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I've really liked the sort of online learning side of things. I think I sort of agree with Chris that it frees up so much of your time, really. So I've been working part-time all the way through, and then you've obviously got your studies, and then what pretty much is another part-time job in terms of hours is applying for new jobs as well. So I think without the online learning, and particularly even when I was going in for one lecture a week in the first term, that sort of one day was probably my most unproductive day, because I'd have to come into, so I live sort of like 40 minutes away from Norwich, so I'd have to, it's not far, but I'd have to sort of come in, sort of set myself up in the library. As much as it was sort of nice to seeing sort of student friends, I'd end up just not being as productive, whereas I feel I can just sort of sit in my office and sort of unsocial as it is, my productivity has been so much higher as a result. And I think also, just compared to, I didn't do my undergraduate at UEA, but compared to my undergraduate, I've been so much more engaged with lecturers, and just the university in general, because I guess just you sort of have to make the most of these sort of online sessions and like our online lectures. So a lot of people, I think it's very easy to sit back and sort of watch the lecture go by and hope that sort of other students come in and answer questions. And from my experience, I think the majority of students are sort of doing that, but I think you really get the most out of it if you're the one that's just asking the questions, and sort of trying to drive the lecture forward, because there's sometimes that sort of awkward, the lecture sort of moves at a very slow pace because the lecturer is trying to sort of get students engaging, but no one's really sort of engaging. And I think the more students engage, the better sort of all students sort of get out, the more sort of all students get out of the lecture. So I think it's been a positive development, but that, I guess that's just me personally. I think I've got quite a lot out of it.
Could I propose a question to everyone who's experienced either at UEA or elsewhere, both engaging before lockdown and also during lockdown? Do you feel you are engaging more academically and with the student life more now than you were previously, or is it the other way around? Or, I mean, feel free to also divide between academic engagement and also engagement with the school, as in just student life.
I'll just quickly add, yeah, so academically very much more engaged, I'd say, but clearly on a sort of social level, yeah, just not engaged at all. I think I've only been here for a master's, but I just have a group chat of 3 people, and they're my sort of only friends that I've really made at university, and a couple of others from lectures. But so on a social level, yeah, definitely not. But yeah, definitely on an academic level, engaging much more.
Yeah, I agree with William. Like, I've been here for 3 years already, but academically, I've engaged a lot, way more than the previous years. But socially, not compare at all with the previous years.
What about James? Because James, I know that you're still doing quite a few things with incoming students, your business challenge. Has the pandemic done anything? Has it affected you in any way at all?
I do actually academically. I feel less engaged. I find it difficult to kind of. I've had enough of sitting at this desk and looking at the screen for lectures, and I really miss just being among human beings in a lecture hall. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but just being among your friends and watching a lecture in person, just I don't know. I feel like I learn a lot more. However, I think maybe more engaged with kind of actual studying by yourself. You have more time to do that, so I think that's easier. But apart from that, obviously social life wise is abysmal and really not going anywhere. But when it comes to engaging with the school and like with my career and stuff, I think that's kind of in a weird way, like Chris was mentioning earlier, and in a kind of weird way, actually, my career and my aspirations for my career and just engaging with the school has increased quite a lot during the pandemic, whether that be with the podcast or, as you said, the business challenge or working for the university. Quite lucky to get an internship for this summer. I've had more time to apply to places and to practice for interviews and stuff. Academically and social life, maybe not as engaged, but when it comes to kind of careers and engaging with the school itself and extracurricular activities, I think I've been able to engage quite a lot more than I would normally.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, James. Yeah, I also think this virtual world that we're living in actually gives more opportunities to engage academically, but doing that constantly, continuously, at some point it starts getting tiring. And I think in the new era, a good combination of virtual learning and face-to-face learning would be a very good approach. But I would like to continue with my next question, because there are different types of activities and ways to engage. But I would like to see whether you think there are more types of activities you would like the School of Economics to initiate. Other types of activities, both curricular or extracurricular, that you think would be useful.
I can have a go.
Yes, please.
So I think something that I've and this is part of I guess one of the benefits I've got from NEP and speaking to some alumni about sort of the current job market and I guess where sort of students need to start, where students need to where students I guess need to sort of stand out. And something that's been raised quite a lot is the sort of doing extracurricular courses, and whether that's I guess sort of run by the School of Economics, or I guess even through sort of partnerships with external sort of courses. So I guess there's lots of exciting and sort of new areas of economics and sort of finance, but sometimes sort of modules, for it to sort of become a module, it can sort of take a few years for I guess the lecturer to come in and sort of propose it or is interested in sort of taking it as a module. So I don't know, for example, like sustainable finance or coding or some sort of network analytics. These all sort of really new and exciting areas that the industry are sort of very involved with, but it might take a bit longer for us to have a module on these. So I think maybe sort of making students more aware of some of the courses that they could perhaps do over sort of Christmas or summer holidays, these sort of two week courses on coding or whatever. I think these help a student sort of really stand out with employers. It shows that they're really interested and they've been proactive through their time at university, even if it's not something that the university can offer itself or the lecturers can offer itself. I think sort of advertising and pointing students to sort of reputable courses is probably would be really helpful for a lot of students.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned earlier that, I mean, I think nearly all of you mentioned that you're not very good with checking emails regularly. What ways would the schools should be using to get the message across to students that, hey, these online courses are available for free for everyone? Is it through Economic Society, them putting up on their page, or is it that you all share a secret WhatsApp channel? What is the best way to get the message across to students? And talking of getting messages across to students, I want to see what is the best way right from the beginning when students join us for induction week. What is the best way to make them aware of these are the things that they can engage with the school? And being a student is not just attending modules and sitting for exams. And yeah, James, you were nodding.
I just, as I mentioned earlier, I think the best way to get to students is through lectures. I think that is the time when students, the most time when students are engaged and are going to turn up to. It's the time when in person students are meant to all come together. And so ways that are normally used, which is emails, a lot of students don't check their emails very well or flick over very quickly, which you can't do obviously in a lecture as much, and other kind of ways like kind of, I don't know, promoting on social media and stuff. I don't think any of that is as good as being in person and actually kind of being, and obviously online that's very difficult and online lecture is still a way to do it, but I think getting people in, I remember having like society members or people running different societies coming in my first year to the front of the lecture hall in induction week saying, oh, this is what we do, this is what you can do to join, please come and like have some fun with us or do the kind of engagement with different areas. And so I think in induction week, and actually probably more importantly throughout the whole year, and this is harder to do than it is to say, but actually getting people in front of students in person in lectures and saying things, and it kind of sounds like it shouldn't be that hard to get students engaged, but I think doing that is probably the best way. So like if we wanted, let's say in person, if it was an in-person podcast, maybe to throw like me down there on like a Wednesday morning or Friday morning to a few lectures and just saying, hello, this podcast is happening tonight, please come along. I think we'd get more people. I think that's probably the same for a lot of things, probably.
Yeah, I have to agree with James on that. And like I have evidence because when the secret challenge was a thing, Pete would show it in every single lecture, and attendance increased so much when he started to insist people on attending the secret challenge. And then when we were already during the pandemic, we could have some like events. He would show it before the QR code. So people really had to pay attention because they wanted QR code. So I think lectures are the best way to get people to engage and let them know what's happening within the school.
What about situations when people aren't attending lectures?
I think, can I add, I think that's why it's important to do this at the beginning of the year and the lectures to make aware everyone, hey, here are all these opportunities and you can, you know, engage with the school in A, B, C, D and just come along and do it. Because afterwards, the students who do stay and the students who do attend the lectures, those are the ones who will go and talk, and those are the ones who are going to hear that, hey, there is this way, what can I do? But like, I think it's just, if it's emphasized enough beginning, as I think Will mentioned before, then it's like, then it might be a higher chance that we might get someone engaged who wouldn't have otherwise.
That's actually very interesting, because I think we had a conversation, George and I, this morning about how at times you get a particular set of students engaging in things, and then there are just some students who never engage. So in terms of trying to, because I often find that those emails get to the students who are seeking them. So the question I would perhaps pose to you, and I don't know if you're the right cohort to pose this to, since you're already engaged in various types of activities, but how do you think we can get students who would otherwise just not give a blank how can we get the students to care a little bit more and think about how this might improve their employability? So for example, let's say I was a student who couldn't care less. What advice would you give me to care more?
So I'll hold my hands up. I was a student who couldn't care less in my first year in PPL. I was there. I saw first year as a time to enjoy myself. Obviously, the LCR was open, which is great, and that's where I spent the majority of my time in first year, and I'll admit it. But I think what I didn't really think about in my first year was those employability opportunities, and that, yeah, I can have a degree, no matter if that's a 2-1 or a first class degree, but I don't have anything to set myself apart from the rest of my cohort. And I think that's something that, particularly in first year, I had no clue how the things that I can engage in first year, which are pretty relaxed in some aspects, because you're adapting to the university, you're adapting to university life. But even if you just show some level of engagement, that sets you up for second and third years, and puts you at a huge advantage compared to those. I started late, so I only sort of fully engaged with university life in terms of extracurricular stuff, probably around about my halfway through my second year towards third year. And it was really hard to engage with things once you're already behind and you're kind of with the first years when you're joining societies anew. So I think from day one, when speaking to first years, saying that it's about having fun, it's about enjoying yourself, and it's about settling in, of course. But if you start off now when it's relatively easy, it will make the rest of your university life a lot easier, and it will make getting those grad schemes and things like that, which seem like miles off, but that will come around very soon, and it'll make those applications a lot easier further down the line. And yeah, hopefully give you a lot better opportunities when you'll be in a job that you love, rather than myself, who ended up in a job that I didn't particularly like. So yeah, I'd say sort of really trying to hammer home that in a fun and productive way would be the most important thing.
Does anyone have anything to add there?
Oh, I have a very radical statement. I want to see what people think of. Should the university allocate some marks to your engagement? What do you think?
I think.
Don't kill me. I'm just proposing the question.
I think sometimes it's just a matter of personal choice and personality. I go to uni and my sister goes to the same university. We have completely opposite personalities. She's very shy, and even if she wanted to engage, she wouldn't do it because it scares her, like, just to talk in front of people. So I think sometimes it goes like, it's just people's personality, and they won't engage because they're just like that, not because they have something against the lecturers or the school, or they don't like what they're doing. It's just sometimes it's not within you to engage, and other people, they just don't care. So I think for people who don't care, like as William said before, they just really won't engage, is not within their interests. So I think the way in which students can be approached is already done, but maybe if there's like a marks trade-off, it could increase a bit participation.
So that's a yes from Maria. Okay.
Is that a no from James?
No, I think it was more just like two quick points. Is number one is like subjectivity. So it's like, how many marks do you award to this and that? Like, do you get more marks for being part of the podcast than you do for being part of the SSLC, or like, how does that all work? And then there are also, it's a shame, but some people, and this is completely fair and fine, some people are just here to get a degree, to go onto a job, and they really don't want to engage with the school, and we have to accept that some people will just want that, and that's completely fine. We want to have as many people engaging as possible, but there will be some that will just want to be here for their degree, for a great university experience, but not engaging, and we have to kind of accept those people to do what they want to. It kind of makes engagement compulsory, and then that means that those people engaging, because it's compulsory, won't be doing it out of enjoyment or out of interest. It will make it worse for them, worse for people who are running the engagement thing opportunities, and kind of be like a compulsory thing that probably I don't think would work. But it's a good idea. I quite like the idea. But it's
So that's a no from Chase.
I could just add in one of my sessions we had an external speaker. One of my lecturers organised an external speaker, and he made, and I don't know if this was if he was going to follow through with it or not, but he basically sort of said in the lecture before that there'll be 10% allocated to your next assessment for asking a question to this lady. She's from the World Bank, and when we had the session, literally, and it's quite a big lecture, so I think there was loads of students in. I can't remember how many, but we literally had. She was just inundated with questions and students sort of asking questions, and the whole chat was just full of questions. And it was, I think it's quite nice, because normally every other lecture there's only sort of like 2 of us that are ever sort of engaging with the lecturer, but she just had so many questions to go off. So I think it could work, and perhaps whether you're sort of scaring students into doing it, and whether you sort of follow through with it so strictly, but sort of just saying that, you know, if you guys do sort of engage with this external speaker or whatever, then there's some more marks up for grabs, and it seemed to have worked. So
can I ask Joyce as well, because I remember Joyce saying something about being shy when she started. So would that have changed anything if there were marks allocated for engagement, or did you just get over it because you knew where you'd benefit?
Shy. Okay.
Bahar might remember different. But, I mean, if there was marks allocated to engagement, I definitely would engage, because
We'd be there at the front of the
yeah,
queue.
why wouldn't you? I mean, when I say shy, I mean that I wasn't willing to engage in other ways except lectures and seminars. That was pretty much it. That's all I would give. But I mean, I mean, if there was, it's a difficult one. I can understand the benefits of allocating marks for engagement, but then, like Maria said, you are just totally excluding those people who are just inherently shy. Like they don't mean to be, but that is just how they are. And even if they wanted to engage, they don't feel up to it. So it's a difficult one. I can understand the pros, but there are definitely cons that would need to be considered.
Yeva?
I just wanted to add that I don't think marks, I probably am on the no team as well, because I don't think the marks are the right motivation for engagement, because the reason why I assume most of us do this is because we get something else out of it. And there is already like a benefit added to this. And if there is just, it's a matter of like explaining to people that mark can, I know that we're all economists, and I know that it's like very, if you don't get a benefit out of it, you're not going to join. But I think it is very important to make it clear that there are other benefits besides from your marks that you can also get out of student engagement.
Chris?
Yeah, just going on what Eva said, I think it might not necessarily be marks. I mean, I had something like that in PPL, where if you turned up and you wrote a summary of the readings for that week, it doesn't matter how good or bad the summary was, that added up to 10% of the overall module grade. And that was a way to get people to go to the seminars. This was pre-COVID. But I think with people that engage with these extracurricular opportunities, you could perhaps highlight something like, I don't know, extra networking opportunities, or something like that, where the average student who might not necessarily engage, it almost becomes kind of not necessarily an exclusive club, but you're rewarded for engaging with the school. And I think something like networking that's really helped me in terms of getting my internships and roles for after uni, is something that is a lot more useful than, you know, perhaps a bursary, or perhaps, you know, just, I don't know, a pizzas or something like that. I think that would be a much more sort of bigger incentive that would pay off for those that are actually engaging and want to engage and want to help the school as well.
Can I just throw out perhaps a final question to the group, and anyone can pick this up? We're talking about this whole awarding marks, and personally, I don't like the idea as well. I agree that people should have their independence and how they want to allocate their time. And if you're coming to uni and you don't feel like engaging, then kudos to you, carry on. So I wonder, because a lot of points that you've all made today has been about getting people to be aware of these opportunities and getting them to be aware early on. If we have, say, a compulsory session for all students in the second week of term, and let's say you'd be penalized attendance-wise and have to have a meeting with Baha in terms of academic engagement if you don't attend the session, would that be something that works? Make sure that people have to attend that. I'm just trying to think of how we can get this done, because emails obviously are not very effective. We could try lectures, but the truth is not all students attend lectures, and the students we're trying to target probably do not attend lectures to begin with. So what do we do?
Can I just add that when I need to have meetings with some students that we don't know even what they look like, as if they haven't turned up to anything, if they don't reply to emails, I sometimes call them. So we could add that to what Ruth just said. So if there is this compulsory, if then you have to have meetings, and if you don't turn up to meetings, you have a phone call from me, then James, you were just saying.
I was just going to say about induction and everything and talking to the students. I would eat quite evil and just do it straight after that first introductory talk, because they can't go anywhere. They could, like, they're stuck there now. So you just have them there and have that as the end of the introductory, or have it at the end of another lecture or something. So maybe not have your own lecture for it, but through that induction week where there are lots of lectures you go to, kind of introduction to the course or how teaching works, and quite a lot of lectures that are run by several lecturers, maybe choose one of them to kind of give 15 minutes, half an hour at the end of that to kind of bring on like the group of us. So maybe like a couple of editors from the podcast, and NEP editor, Society, SSLC, and bring them up for like 15 minutes to half an hour where they can kind of do what we've done here in a kind of much more condensed way. And then the students are kind of trapped, so they have to listen and watch. And normally in first year, I think you are quite eager to know what's going on. Most students will probably be. That's the time to get them. As time goes on, I think students normally become less engaged and more kind of worried about kind of like the LCR and sleeping in the mornings. So that first week or two, I think, is the best time to kind of to catch them and be like throw loads of engagement ideas in front of them, and they're more likely, hopefully, kind of latch onto that.
I find it funny that he's using trapped. That sounds like a very heavy word, but I get it.
In a non-evil way.
Anyone else has something to say here?
Yeah, I agree with James. I think early on is the best time to sort of get students to engage, and maybe, you know, we tend to sort of have more events. Well, I did sort of at my undergraduate at the end of the year, but perhaps maybe like a dinner or some sort of fun event where, you know, it's in the evening, and students can engage sort of like really early on in the sort of this School of Eco, and, you know, it could be a dinner where, you know, at intervals, different sort of that all these sort of different groups come up and sort of have their say and sort of talk about it a little more, and just have it in a quite a fun, engaging sort of environment, rather than, you know, because it can sort of get quite dry, sort of pitching some of these ideas to students. It can sort of feel quite detaching, whereas I think maybe just having the societies and stuff, just speak to people just at a dinner or something. I think that would be I think that students would engage with that quite a bit more.
I like his point about it as a finance event. I mean, apparently we're having to resort to all sorts of tricks and tactics to get people to engage. Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end of this today. Thank you very much for staying with us. We've actually spent much longer. I think I've been enjoying the talk so much I forgot about time. But if there's any maybe final point anyone wants to get across, or final question, anyone wants to ask, please let me know now, or forever hold your peace. I always like to say that. I don't know why. I should be a minister wedding people somewhere. Anyways, thank you very much for coming here today, to our podcast team who are getting a break from being on the other side of things. Now I know what it feels like, so thank you. Thank you, Maria, for representing the student reps. Thanks, Will, for representing the NEP. Thanks, Joyce and Rosie, for representing the Eco Society. And thanks to George and Bahar. And thanks to myself, too, for hosting this event. But yeah, it's been nice talking to everyone. So thank you, and bye, I guess.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely Easter break. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
And I hope everyone can meet the